Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning, this Matt.
This is Jesse.
And we have absolutely nothing planned for today. What we were debating is who we should have on the podcast. And we have many highly intelligent, qualified individuals that are probably much better at organizing and planning and actual follow through combined with probably just generally better topics.
But unfortunately, we don't have any of them scheduled or nailed down, or it's so convoluted, right? The process to be on this podcast is basically just hang out with us for a while, and then we'll figure out, hey, let's go record a podcast.
Right.
That's the general deal. But before we dive off into this topic, how do people get a hold of us?
Well, we could talk about that now. Or, yeah, you're right. We'll do it now. So if you ever feel like reaching out to us, find us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. That's a great way to send us any questions, concerns, comments, interests, frustrations, aggravations, intentions, maybe. Or, yeah, we'll avoid litigation.
Yeah.
Also, you can find us on the YouTube It Tastes Like Burning Cast. You can find us on Patreon at It Tastes Like Burning Cast.
Yeah.
And there's probably some other places.
Yeah. And we're on the Book of Faces and the Twitters and the X or whatever it is. And not really Reddit anymore. That turned out that was even below us, and we're pretty low. So
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Reddit. It's sad. Reddit used to be just absolutely true gutter wash, and somehow or another they went even lower than that.
yeah, now the toilet runs into the gutter.
Yeah, and those plebs are below me.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, we have all these great topics and great things that we've had out there on the horizon, and we just can't make it happen. And it's our fault, without a doubt. It's just the inconsistency of when we were actually in the same place at the same time, and the same place happens to be where we've got equipment to do this.
and alcohol.
Yeah, and it's and speaking of which, the last episode I got accused of being completely hammered, but so earlier that day I had this allergic reaction. My throat like swells shut, my uvula's like the size of my thumb, like it's bad, and I couldn't talk for most of the day. I just sat there swallowing my own parts, choking on myself. And finally, with some Benadryl and a little help, it finally got to a point where I could talk, but I didn't talk much because it was frankly painful.
Well, even the worst sickness and ailment will make sure this podcast goes through.
Yeah,
So,
we're dedicated. That's the word.
that's or committed.
Committed. But you know, we've we had all these cool things happen over the last several months, and it's just been this. We need to get these guys in here, right? We had a movie that was filmed, and we talked about the movie like a year ago. This movie that was filmed at our station, and we've been going to have the guys on from the movie, some actors and producers and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
And we just don't ever make it line up. It's impossible, and they're local. Like these are local people. It's not like we're trying to phone somebody in from Hollywood. We're not going to get probably not going to have Kevin Sorbo on the podcast. I'm sorry. And if that's where your heart lies, then it's probably not going to be him. But there's some other guys, right? And even though, I don't know, have you watched it yet?
No, I haven't had time.
Yeah. So I did watch it because one of the guys that works for me when we were working out of town a couple weeks ago was like, "Oh, it's the movie. I'm in the movie, and I'm gonna watch the movies." And he's in the first 42 seconds of it, and then never again. But you know, watched it. It's not a terrible movie. It's not bad. It's that chick flick kind of movie, right? It's Hallmark-esque, even though it's not on the Hallmark channel yet. But it's the Hallmark-esque type movie, independent film. So, you know, short of Kirk Cameron, it checks all the boxes for a good Hallmark flick. So your wife will like it, or woman in your life, wherever will like it, but it's not necessarily a dude movie.
A small part of me died when they wanted to actually start getting serious about filming at our department. Because in a previous life, I had been on movie production sets for my previous job. Now, I had nothing to do with the movie, but I had to be there. And it was hell. Like, I really, really did not want this to happen at all, but it did. And if you ever have the opportunity to have a movie shot at your station, don't. That is really the easiest way to answer that. And if you do have a movie shot at your station, be prepared for lively and interesting conversations with the sound guy,
Yeah.
especially while you're standing off to the side screwing with your firefighters. And it turns out that those highly sensitive cameras can actually hear you. Uh, and he gets pissed.
Oh, they got pissed several times. That we were in I was enthralled in a conversation with one of them about, it's so nice of you guys to shut down for the day for this to happen. And I'm like, oh, we're not shut down. We don't shut down. We're the fire department.
Right.
What do you mean you're not shut down? Yeah. Well, you're not going to take these trucks and these people. If I need to take these trucks and these trucks and these people are leaving. Like, we're going to try to handle whatever happens with other resources, but understand, Armageddon happens. Your movie's the last thing I care about. It wasn't popular. They didn't care for that. But the reality is that's the reality of the situation.
Right.
You can do this any day. Tell that to the person that's crashed or burned or had a heart attack or whatever. Crashed, burned, and had a heart attack. That's not really fair to the people we serve. So
The other really awesome part of it is, and I knew this was going to happen, where they have a plan for X, Y, and Z, and then what ends up happening is that they want to shoot another 500 hours of stuff, and this always happens on the front end where they start really stacking the deck, and as you get to the back end, well, there's no money left, there's no production time left. So the last 30 minutes of the movie, it just comes to this crashing end that leaves many questions to be answered. And this happened on this critter again. All said and done, I can't say thank you enough. One, for my guys being so willing and naively volunteering their time so eagerly. And then when they realized they screwed up, and me telling them, get bent, you committed to it, now you're stuck.
yeah,
And even though they complained, they did follow through with it.
yeah. One night I think they shot all night long, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was like 12 hours,
Yeah,
16
16
hours.
hours.
Yeah, just insane. I don't have the patience for that. Like, in Jesse's world, here's what we have, here's the end result, make it happen now, kind of way I've operated. And the artsy side of, oh well, there was a glare on this and a pigeon flew by or whatever, that car honked. I edit that out. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Make your money, sound man. But yeah, we've had so many different things happening with the organization. And it's been very difficult to generally even remotely keep up with it. And we're staggering and falling off to the end of the year. I keep hoping that December is going to be slower. I know it's not. I can already tell it's not.
Well, we have PR events. There's stuff
Yeah.
stacked on stuff. Like we came out of the summer with a recruit academy with 50 students, and before we got that all finished up and graduated, we'd already had an area school. We It was stupid. Just the
Officer
amount,
development.
just outside training, just the stuff on top of stuff that we do it to ourselves. There's no doubt. There's no one to blame but us. But come
Oh, you're
on, man.
wrong. The person to blame is Gene.
Yeah,
He's the
well,
one that did this. I don't
but
care if he did it under our direction. He's the one that pulled the trigger.
yeah, but I mean, what's the alternative, right? Do nothing,
Sanity,
slide through it.
be
Yeah, but I
waiting.
would I would argue that the challenges and even the challenges for the just rank and file firefighter to keep up with everything that was going on over the last couple of months will in the end make them a better firefighter.
Should.
It gives them what's that Gene says he doesn't multitask, he task switches a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah. But it gives them the ability to kind of work multiple things at the same time. That was loud and obnoxious.
It's okay.
Is it? I'm the world's worst because I don't say no. Right? So I've gotten myself into all this just massive amount of stuff. I'm validating test questions for the state. I'm supposed to be building a class on marketing. My third of this class on marketing that I can't say I haven't touched it because I did write some notes, but I haven't done anything with that. That's supposed to be wrapped up soon.
Shit.
That was loud.
That was not intentional.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be doing that this in December. I'm supposed to have like a draft of this so that in January we're presenting this class. I'm nowhere near that. I've got so much that I'm doing with just work and department, and oh, by the way, we had this movie stuff that took 2 or 3 weeks, and then came right off of the heels of that, and had this just once in a career event where one of our crews rescued a 2-year-old out of a second story burning apartment. Well, that a little thing like that, you know, did the most competent rendition of a VEIS that a department could do. Doesn't matter if you're Detroit or Denver or whoever. And by the way, it was caught on video.
That helps.
Yeah. So it's just been the snowball, and we're not done with that yet. I mean,
No.
we've got awards and presentations and stuff stemming off of that, and that thing's 2 weeks old. It lived a solid week news cycle, life cycle in the media, between the initial breaking of it and it making its way all the way to Sky News Australia
And BBC,
and BBC.
which is still technically their kind of parent company. BBC's over Sky News, but regardless,
Yeah,
3 continents.
yeah, we made it around the globe almost. I don't think in Wuhan they were playing it, but that's fine. They don't need to.
Maybe. I don't know how many apartment fires they have there. It's the whole bars thing.
Yeah, keeps them in.
It helps. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of stuff, and in your organization where this is all really going is just ultimately your ability to delegate and then also be aware and conscious enough to the people that you've delegated to when they start getting crushed to death too.
Yeah,
Uh
it happens.
well, we did it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Gene was ready to beat us with a spatula with nails through it.
yeah,
A little bit of that was self-inflicted. Uh But yeah, be careful what you wish for. Uh, and I don't want to say that we're playing catch up, but it sure as hell feels like we play a lot of catch up.
We're playing catch up. Yeah, you know, you don't know where the limit of what you can kind of handle until you see that limit. So it all starts back in the March April time frame when we bounced into this. Hey, let's do some ads on Facebook and some ads on Google, and let's do some recruiting ads and see what that does and see how that works. Well, it turns out it works really, really well, to the tune of hundreds of applications that in the end yielded about, I don't know, what, 35, 40 people through the door. Of that 35, 40, 30 of them are still around, 25 to 30. Uh,
I'd say 50 and 40.
yeah, it's insane how well that just something that simple, and I use the term simple because I didn't do any of it, right? Other than say, hey, we should do that. Uh, I didn't make the ads, I didn't make the videos, I didn't do any of that stuff, right? We paid a company to do that, and they did it, and turns out they're really good at what they do. And we're back down to our normal one or two a month, which for us, one or two a month is still growth. We hold on to we lose less than one or two a month.
Oh yeah, no, our retention. This real question needs to be asked at like year 5 for us, year 3 and 5. Uh, because what we want to do is start brushing up against the national average, which is 5 years, and see what our retention rate is at 5 years.
Yeah.
Uh, there's still too many people that are too new, that are too excited about the hot and fresh of the organization.
Well, at least we dumped the rescue a 2-year-old on them in their first 3 months of being here,
Right.
right? So at least they have that to look forward to for the rest of ever that they're never going to get to do again.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if all goes well.
Yeah. That would be preferable. Uh yeah, while you were talking, I was sitting there thinking about we should probably have like a year in review podcast. And then I just went through the list in my head. I mean, it's like we'll just bounce around. So we had 2 fire academies, 80 people ran through that, probably had upwards of 500 test skills and written given, uh, a regional school, 2 officer development classes, a movie. Then we have our usual rigmarole with our budget, work on a new station,
And we did a pre-construction on a truck.
pre-construction on one of the 4 trucks. I mean,
Received a truck.
yeah, we received a truck. And I'm just,
That's
everything I mentioned isn't the fire department. That is stuff that's in our ball court.
yeah.
Then of course you have your typical personnel problems. Some of them are serious, some of them are minor, some of them just require a little extra TLC. Then you have the politics
Are
of the
you gonna
city.
beat that thing to death?
I'm not hitting anything.
The desk is wobbling. It's gotta be.
I bet you what it is I've got my mic extended pretty far, and I bet it's dropping.
Yeah, maybe.
Gravity.
Can't turn it off.
And we learned about gravity tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we just have had a lot. I mean, let's see, state convention, traveling for another state's convention. That's 100% self inflicted.
Yeah.
So you throw conferences I've been to this year: TDIM, IAFC, Fools, SFFMA, uh, TEAKS, Muni School. And there's another one.
You didn't do safety, did you?
No, and I didn't do Chiefs this year.
Yeah. And then next year it's all about what, taffy, and then all those plus about 8 more.
Something like that. And I will be going to safety in February.
Yeah, text messages.
So yeah, I mean, we're just a busy organization. Uh the other thing is just I'm ready to absolutely unequivocally 100% disconnect from social media. Uh Today was retarded on social media. We haven't even talked about that at all. And yeah, here we are in 2024, soon to be 25. And whether the people in the community like it or not, we have a pretty decent organization that's ready to tackle the next year.
Yeah, and beyond. Yeah, I think we've done a decent enough job kind of setting ourselves up for long-term success, but it that's all subjective, right? You don't know what it's going to be until it happens, but I think we have. Uh, we work on this stuff, we plan on it. We look farther down the road than who's going to be catching calls tomorrow, right? That doesn't even come into our equation very often unless we just know it's a rough time. But hell, today's the day after Thanksgiving. How many people just showed up to block intersections for a parade? 40?
Probably around I was about to say 35, so
Yeah, it's an insane amount of people that show up to just go sit in a truck and block an intersection for a parade.
yeah, I just and another thing that, and we've been talking about this, there's a handful of departments that we've talked to around the state, and we've gotten to know the departments and the chiefs pretty well. And I mean, I just I don't see
Well,
people giving enough credit to Alpine, to Divine, to Robinson, and I mean, don't get me wrong, there's others, Crescent. Give them the credit they're due, and actually, I'd argue all of Hood County, truthfully. Uh, Give people the credit they're due. I mean, there there's a way to do it, and there's a way to suffer and complain about it. And it really just boils down to those two camps.
yeah. And that brings me to the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about. Like Matt and I are out in the world a lot, right? We're not just stuck here in Granbury living our life, doing our thing, running our department. We're all over the state of Texas all the time, both of us, and even into Oklahoma. And what's crazy, and it's just it makes you feel weird, right? I get this little uneasy kind of touchy feely feeling about it, but you run into this department that you've never heard of, that you've never seen these people before, and they recognize who you are, and they say, "Hey, that thing that you were talking about, this we tried that and that worked," or "Hey, we tried that and we couldn't get it to work, but we think we know why. We think if we do it this way, it'll work," and it's just uh, wow. It's wow. It's a wow moment, right? And I hate to. It's not to boast about it. It's just to let you know that, like, don't be ashamed to try some of this stuff. The folks that are out there doing what we're kind of telling you, hey, this is what we did and it worked. They're having a lot of success. A lot of success. I mean, I know of 3 different academies that have started off of just discussions about our academy, that the departments have fired off their own academies or are in the process of firing off their own academies. Uh, heck, entire state of Louisiana may be stealing some of our academy idea and the way we do it, right? But is it stealing? No, because it's willingly given, right?
Yeah, well, it's not the same when you want to have success shared.
Right.
Uh yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of departments now. I see a lot of career departments. I see a lot of combination departments. I see a lot of volunteer. And I see a lot of common struggles between them. Uh, Being in our relationship and geographical location to the DFW area, we have a lot of departments to kind of look at and compare to and analyze and have the opportunity to have discussions with them. And some of these departments are career departments are really doing well. They are they are really making a true positive impact in their community. And I see that with some combo departments too. Really, really serious, legit impact. Like they've got it together. See it with volunteer. And then I also see the other side of it too, where it's a career department, there's a little stagnation, a little bit of struggle, and they just kind of look like a cartoon character with their feet spinning. I see it in combo and I see it in volunteer.
But there's a common thing that the ones that are doing good, and I know this because I know it. That's all I can tell you. I know it because I know it because I've seen it because I've lived it. There's a common thing that all the ones that are doing good are doing that the ones that aren't doing good are not doing.
Which is
Training.
right.
100%. Doesn't matter what the training's about. I'd argue it just has to be training. Has to be good training. Can't just be garbage, right? Dominoes isn't training. Reading a book is not training. Like it has to be training. It has to be uh, planned and organized and structured because I've seen departments that are doing unplanned, unorganized, unstructured training, and it hurts them very much so because that tends to be this group's training and nobody else is, or this group's training this way and this other group's training a different way, or we're going to train for this, but you guys train for that, and it just doesn't. You kind of got to be on the same sheet of music.
It helps. It helps. Uh, there's an analogy that I always like to use. I'm great at analogies. So, one thing that I like to always kind of describe all of my guys as is I'm on a barren island with one coconut tree and, 100 different monkeys. And let me tell you, they will get into it. And the poo slinging will start and the biting and just on and on. But when we pull out the calliope and I start grinding away on the organ, I, I'm telling you, they are phenomenal when it comes to getting the timing down for the music. And they all pick up their coconuts and go to work. And it's seamless and it's flawless and it's actually really incredible. Now, the second the music stops, nope, they're back to biting each other and throwing poo again. And there's part of an organization that needs to remember one simple thing, that you're still people.
Yes.
And you have got to let your people be people. There's nothing wrong with having characters and personalities and dispositions and disagreements and arguments and discussions and even dislikes. There's nothing wrong with that. It's
Oh,
perfectly fine.
I'm gonna throw Junior Woodchuck Lieutenant under the bus right now.
Uh-oh. What did he do?
So he's got these funny mannerisms,
Oh, God. Yeah.
and it's we're used to it, right? We've lived with this for a long time, and it's just goofy, and it's innocuous. It's just him being goofy and his goofy mannerisms. Well, now he's got a whole tribe of them doing it. And we had to sit down with him the other day and be like, "You know why they're doing that?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm cool." Well, they think so.
Yeah. Literally. You dumbass.
They think so. That's why they're emulating you. And but it's good. It's so good to see that somebody kind of
Resonates and translates.
right. And that that is a sign of a leader, right? He's becoming that leader that we've been trying to help coach him to
God spare us all.
for a while now, right? You know, he got to make that step and he got to become a lieutenant. He he's done exceedingly well with that responsibility, and he's held things together and done a good job. And now he has followers, and all he needs now is a Kool-Aid recipe, and he's got it nailed down, right? You know, he's making his mark on the department in the world, and it's not one of those marks where a rule gets named after you, right? It's a positive mark.
Well, ironically, he has about 4 or 5 rules written after him.
Right.
But
He's grown out of that.
those are lessons learned. He and we are now better for these set events. And it is. It's one of those things where you've got to be able to have faith in your people and stop micromanaging the living crap out of them and let them find their way. I do. I just sit here and scratch my head sometimes when I look at certain organizations and the things that they fight their membership over just makes me question like everything that they do because the membership is legitimately doing everything in their power to make the organization better in their own eyes. And I see active leadership going around and crushing it.
And so let's dive down that right quick. So the department's made of the members. The members are the department. You know, it's kind of like what good is a church with just a preacher in a building if it doesn't have parishioners, right?
Right.
So if the membership is pretty lock and step on some particular change or some particular way that something they want it they want it to be X, Y, and Z. But the chief or the leadership wants ADF, right? We want XYZ, he wants ADF. At what point are you doing and I understand there's 100 different scenarios where you could tell me, well, they're just gonna want to blah blah blah, and they're just gonna want to blah blah blah. But maybe there's somewhere in there that there's a compromise or there's
Well, okay.
because this doesn't work in career, right? Because you just tell them go get another job, right? They're not gonna, but it works in volunteer because they have to have ownership of the organization. They have to have ownership of the department.
So, so diving down the rabbit hole, I've said this on here and I said it just again Wednesday. The chief only has one job. There's only one thing the chief has to do right. There's only one thing. They have to make the right decision based on the organization.
Right.
That's it. Nothing else matters. And the fact of the matter is that if you're making the right decision for the organization, what is the organization? We're a fire department. So if I make the right decision based on the organization, I'm making the right decision for public safety, maximum protection. If I make what makes up the fire department, it's our membership. If I make the right decision based on the organization, then I'm making the right decision based on the membership. And the kicker with this is that the chief could be 100% right and make the right decision based on the organization. But if you forget one basic human element, very, very basic, the communication part, okay, and you don't sit down and actually entertain the discussion, and I'm not talking about a formal trial here, you sit down and you explain this is why it has to be this way. What are you wanting to have happen? So you can at least understand their perspective, you can understand their viewpoint, then the compromise happens, because now you're getting two parties to actually have a discussion
about whatever it is. And the
right.
reality is that if if the I hate to even say this, a lot of chiefs are not making the decision based on what's best for the organization. They're making the decision on based on what's best for them and their control of the organization.
Or
Period.
popularity.
Period. Our popularity on the other side of the spectrum of that, right? And that's what they're making that decision based on. And a lot of times, I mean, I'll just give this example. So we've always had certification as kind of a goal of every member to get certified, right?
Yeah.
And that process became a little more fluid, and we were able to get it done. And we figured out, hey, we can actually get this done in a real timely manner. So what we want to do is we want to make sure everybody has this training coming out the gate. Well, the department pushed that from we want to make sure everybody has the training for the certification to now we're to the point where you just don't even come out of that probationary helmet until you have certification, period. We didn't do that. The department did that. The members did that. The members helped put that up as what they wanted the standard to be. And if we would have fought that on the other end of that and said, oh no, we can't do that, we'd be idiots.
Yeah. How dare you make yourselves better? God, what are you doing?
Right.
What?
And so it's not always that the membership's wanting to outmaneuver or out politic the chief. That's not what it is. Sometimes it's just the momentum of the progress. Don't stand in the way of it. Let it happen, right? And that basically is how that happened. We sparked the snowball going down the hill on the certification side of things. We just kind of leaned it over there by the side. Those guys pushed that thing down the hill. And frankly, if you're standing in the way of the snowball at this point, you're stuck. You're never gonna hold any position other than a chair ornament in our department. And I'm sorry for the guys that got stuck in that spot. I really am. I'm sorry that that's what happened to you, but you can make the choice to fix that.
Yeah, it's the the problem with standards and the problem with raising the expectations is that it's unilateral,
Yes.
and you need to be real careful making sure that everyone below you is a verifiable idiot until you give them a path to no longer be an idiot. And the issue arises when they go out and they actually get all of the certifications, they meet the standard, they raise you an expectation and then put themselves out there for achieving it.
And then say, hey, wait a minute. That was pretty easy. We should make that just a hair harder.
Right.
Let's see if we can do it if we make it just a hair harder. I think we're at the point where it's coasting time on that. Like, we don't need to raise the bar on that. The bar will continually raise on its own just through updates to certifications and curriculums and all that. But now we're to a point where after we get this person through their first 7 months, now we can really focus on making them better,
Yeah, well-rounded individual.
well-rounded and better, right?
So right along these discussions, and it is the I had a great conversation with two basically brand new people on the department that just recently finished the academy. And they're both young, very, very young. One's, I think, 18, and the other one, I think he goes to bars, so he's at least 21. And I had, they didn't know it. I had an agenda for the series of questions I was asking them, and it is spun off of a conversation that I had had 2 weeks ago with two members that aren't necessarily happy's not the right word, but they had some issues and some concerns. And while they were addressing their issues and concerns, there was a couple of things that they had stated. Okay, fine, I'll bend the knee. I have no problem saying that we can work better on this. But then there's other parts of this where we are really, really making a challenging statement. And I don't think they realized or intended it to be quite of a challenge, as at least at how I perceived it. So just out of complete curiosity and to hedge my bet, I bounce into the station today. And there's two of these new people on a Friday after Thanksgiving, 18, 21 plus year old, that are sitting there studying for their tests they have on Saturday for a volunteer fire department. Okay. And it didn't help. I knew the second I walked in the door, the study session was done. It's just, that's the way that was going to be. So, and I do try and be overly objective, and I try and be as absolutely non biased as I can be. I'm going to hedge my bet. I'm going to ask these two, hey, what about X? What about Y? Is this happening? Have you heard anyone else say this? Have you had any experiences or encounters or anything that would negatively, whatever, affect you? Bullying, hazing? Do we have a non supportive culture? Is it complete chaos? Do you feel leaderless? Do you feel like that there's significant underdevelopment of the individual? Do you feel like that you're just left hanging out in the wind? And here was the really weird part. I should stipulate that I told him your first month on the department doesn't count. I know that's a disaster. I have no problem admitting that's a disaster. I don't know how to address it, but we're technically addressing it. It just is. Your first month on our organization sucks.
Yeah, well, you're the new kid on the playground.
Right. New kid in middle school.
Yeah.
So your first month's out. Sorry. That's a different discussion. I want to know about your second month. I want to know about
Your 5th month, your 6th
your
month.
time in the academy. I want to know about the time after the academy. And here's the kicker. It's not a great litmus test. We're only talking about 2 out of 50. Okay. Or 2 out of 40. But they confirmed what I knew. Everything's okay. Is there room for improvement?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And I asked him for that. I did. What happened? How can we make it better? What do you think? And it's real simple. It's the classic generational gap. Me and Jesse are going to do really well with a list written on a whiteboard. That list is going to be perfectly clear to us. Why? Because we come from a background as children of lists written on backboards, whiteboards, or in our case, chalkboards.
Yeah.
So there was some actual, legitimate, beneficial, constructive criticism and input there. Here, I'll just give you one. One of the bullet points written on the board is get familiar with the trucks. Which trucks? What do we call a truck? I know that is a pickup truck, but they call that giant thing over there a truck, and it has ladders on it, but it's sitting next to another giant thing that's not called a truck. So do I only focus on the pickup trucks or the truck? And it's like, Christ. Well, that's one way to take it literal,
Yeah.
but highlighting the point. What trucks? It's just one point that they brought up, but it's like, oh,
All equipment and
so
apparatus.
yeah. But that's just one point is don't be afraid to have these conversations with your new people. Figure it out. How, because it doesn't matter. All you care about is people joining the organization,
And being
segueing into the
successful.
organization, and wanting to stay a part of the organization. That is all that stinking matters.
And
Nothing else matters.
being successful, right? Being successful at being part of the organization. I see it all the time, and I see it in other organizations, not ours so much. It wasn't ours at the beginning. Like there was guys that were just hell bent that it was their job to cull the herd and weed out the bad apples and whatever other terms you want to use for that. But the reality is the bad ones will weed themselves out. If your culture and your expectation is high enough and it's matched with the tools and the knowledge to achieve the expectation, then the ones that are not going to get there are going to weed themselves out. Period. You don't have to do anything but establish the standard, right?
Period.
That's it.
Here's the only other thing I would add. If your membership is willing to raise the standard on their own, don't argue against it.
Right.
Now,
if it's ridiculous,
terrible example, but let's say that they require a doctorate in like astrophysics to be a member.
balk at that one.
Short of being at like Alamogordo Nuclear Research Facility, maybe that one probably should be ignored. Like, yeah, probably even at Alamogordo.
Yeah.
But like, if they're wanting to say, hey, we want more training or we want more certifications and we want those things to be required for whatever, don't argue against that.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll push it forward on their own. You don't really have to do anything. And you don't have to weed out the quote unquote bad apple. If there's somebody that truly doesn't belong there, they'll be so far on the fringes that they just won't make it. I have a lot of faith in our folks, and I think even to the extent that a master manipulator could come in and our folks would figure that out and weed that person out on their own, and we wouldn't have to do anything. I think that they're that in tune with each other. They're that tight. They're all pulling the line the same direction, And really and truly, that's all you can ask from them. Just toe the line. Ride for the brand. I think they all ride for the brand pretty solid. You are typing like 90 to nothing.
It requires typing to at least 90 to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they all ride for the brand real solid. And I think that's what it takes. And we're going to expand their because they ride for the brand. We're going to expand their privileges. We're going to expand their ability to do more things. We're going to expand the amount of training that they can take in. We're going to give them more options. We're going to do our part to support their willingness to do and be part of the team. Period.
Yeah, I mean, if people are willing to better themselves, why would you say no?
Yeah, give them the tools. Give them the tools.
That just all the discussions, all the theory, everything just it kind of comes to a halt right there.
Matt, you're just going to train these people and they're going to go somewhere else.
Oh yeah, the horror. Damn you for making that community better. You are a piece of crap. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. And it's the least we can do. We have the tools, we have the knowledge, we have the time. You know, it's the least we can do. It's absolutely the least we can do for everybody on this earth. Because it's not just about the people that live here. It's the people that pass through, the family members, everything else, right?
Ideally,
it's the least we can do.
yeah. I mean, I just it is it's sometimes really hard to sit there and actually try and get people to understand that it's okay to be awesome. Sounds simple to say that.
I like it. I do it pretty well, I think, but I'm biased.
And it's funny to me at how many organizations are afraid of being awesome. It's weird, and I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, okay, whatever. It's culture, uh, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. No, that's another deep subject. I think we got off into the weeds on a pretty solidly deep subject tonight.
Oh yeah, for particularly how weak we started out of the gate.
Out of the gate. So it pays to pay attention and listen through, right? Because the nuggets are in there sometimes. But I think we're at a good wrap that one up and put a bow on it.
Works for me.
Yep.
You want me to give the closing?
Yeah, we can closing wrap it up and stick a fork in it.
That'll work. Call me done. All right. You can always reach out to us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. Shoot us any questions, concerns, or issues, or ideas, or topics that you have any interest in. You can always find the podcast on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. And if you're ever interested in being a guest, don't ever be afraid to shoot us an email, respond in the comments in the podcast. And always likes, clicks, and subscribes are really appreciated. It's aggravating at how much that actually drives the metrics. And
it costs you nothing to subscribe. Zero, but it does a world of good for us.
And there's a whole bunch of other ways to find us out there. You just got to sleuth and dig. Big one, like, click, subscribe, whatever you're on. That makes a difference in itself. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
Have a good evening.